If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another episode of Under the Radar for you guys. Bit of a shorter one since there's only 3 other albums that I had any interest in checking out that came out on October 7th, as I talked about Lamb of God, and then I talked about Queensryche. So we got 3 more to talk about briefly, and the first one is, well, the third big release that came out on the 7th, and I just couldn't fit enough room to review it on its own, but I am talking about the latest from Goatwhore with Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven. Of course, Goatwhore, band that's been around for quite a while, great mix of blackened death and thrash and sludge. After all, from New Orleans, one of the birth homes of sludge, you're going to get a little bit of that in there, especially with Sammy from Acid Bath providing some of those sludgy riffs from Acid Bath just plastered on top of this sound. Of course, I did check out not the last one, Vengeful Ascension, but the one before, Constricting Rage of the Merciless. That was a fun album, and if there's one word to describe Goatwhore's music, it's fun. Because you get some head-banging riffs all throughout, whether it's done in like the black metal style, thrashy riffs, even some death metal chugs, some of that sludge. You pretty much get all that on this album, and then some. There's even a couple of tracks, especially the closing track, And I Was Delivered from the Wound of Perdition, where they get a little bit atmospheric and experimental with their sound and like work on like building moments up through tension, atmosphere, the whole 9 yards. So really the only complaint that I really have about this album is that while it's typical Goatwhore, I will say the production maybe not the best. Like there were some times where the drums may have overpowered some of the riffs just by a notch, and then other times I felt like some of the riffs overpowered the drums, so a bit of a production inconsistency, at least to my ears. But aside from that, this is a very good album. Not the best Goatwhore album, but it doesn't have to be the greatest thing ever, just as long as it's fucking kick-ass, that's all that matters, and I give this an 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, off to a good start on this episode. And now for the second of 3 albums for this week's Under the Radar, I am talking about the latest offering from De Profundus with The Corruption of Virtue. So this is a band I never heard of. I discovered them through the Metal Archives, and I thought, you know what, this looks like something that could be really cool. And going through their Metal Archives, they were listed as Death Doom early, then they became progressive blackened death metal in the middle, now just a death metal band. Although, as I'm listening to this album, which is, by the way, it's a really good album, and the production sounds very old school, like it's raw, it's gritty, kind of like a late 80s, early 90s death metal mix. Now, there are a lot of moments on here that kind of made me think of bands like Death, and even like the more mid-tempo groovy stuff kind of made me think of bands like Opeth, but the lead work remind me a lot of Obscura. Like, it's very technical lead work, but with some cool melodies that get popped in and out throughout. And there's even some of that, like, black metal tremolo riffing going on certain tracks of this album. So it's like a hodgepodge of, like, Opeth, Death, Obscura, little hints of black metal, gets a little bit kind of thrashy at times. It's anything you could love about death metal. Now, like I said, with the production being the way it is, there are moments in the album, again, kind of like the Goatwhore album, where the drums, especially during blast beats on this album, the guitars get kind of buried in the blast beats and even some of the thrashy parts, but there are also moments where the drums feel a bit buried at times when the guitars are just totally overpowering. But it's more the drums being overpowering than anything else. So that was just a minor gripe I had. I do love the sound of the album in terms of the sonics. It's just the drums buried riffs at times. But anyways, this is still a really good album. Another 8.5 out of 10. So far we've gotten 2 really good albums back to back. And now for the third and final album for Under the Radar this week is the sophomore effort from LA metal band Diabology with Father of the Serpents. Now, I gotta be honest, I wanted to check this out because I saw on their Metal Archives page that they're a blackened thrash band. And I was expecting to hear some like gritty, sleazy, evil sounding stuff. Well, I felt like I was a bit misled, to be honest, with this album. This just sounded more like metalcore, groove metal, with moments of thrash, but not really much else for me, personally. It's like this album... I had high hopes for this because I saw they were listed as blackened thrash, and I was thinking I was going to get something that sounds similar to like Midnight or Hell Ripper, Destroyer 666, or R Noir, like those kind of bands, but instead I got hit with middle of the road groove metal, metalcore, what have you. I mean, granted, it's not terrible, but it just was not my cup of tea at all. Like, it was kind of a painful listen for me, at least, but I mean, there were some cool riffs, and there were some cool solos on here, but it wasn't what I was expecting at all, and that's really what kind of soured me on this album. So I'm gonna give this one a 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, it's not anything amazing. It's not awful. It's just kind of there, to be honest. And I feel bad because this is a new band, and I don't like to give out, like, any negativity towards new bands. It's just, this one just didn't work for me. But if you're watching, if anybody's watching this that likes this band, more power to you. Just wasn't for me. And that does it for this week's Under the Radar. What was your favorite out of the 3 albums I talked about? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, horns high. See you guys later.
What the heck is fellatio?
Cole, out of all the people in here, you should know what that is.
Every time I'm soft, I'm supposed to try to dab a shine.
Is it a new way to torture
It's getting a
people?
little too friendly.
No! Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Wait, so fellatio is stimulation of the penis? Really?
Thanks for letting me do that. I might pick that part.
Cole. It's another name for a blowjob.
Okay. Every time
I thought it was a dick
It's a deep
punishment.
throat blowjob.
Alright, here we go. Okay.
Moving on.
Sounds like Carson's getting one right now.
God damn it.
This game has gone to hell.